are listening to Timeless Teachings with Yana Fry. Here we build heart-to-heart connections with teachers, leaders, experts, and influencers to learn about consciousness, human potential, and happiness in daily life. We have no rules and no scripted conversations. Welcome to Timeless Teachings, and today our guest is Sonia Samtani from Hong Kong.
So nice to meet you, Yana. Great to be here.
Yes, Hong Kong and you. So tell me, is it where you were born? Is it where you moved? If you moved, from where? Just a bit of the background.
So it is where I was born, brought up. So I'm a Hong Konger. That's what we call us.
Wow.
And it was a very cosmopolitan place. So when I was here, it was a British colony. So we were brought up as if it was a British colony. Then I went to UK to study for a while, came back with my family, and then I started my business here. And I've been in the mental health industry for 18 years, all the while in Hong Kong, based in Hong Kong, and then, of course, taking the work overseas, but I have been here.
18 years. For those who haven't guessed yet, the topic today would be about mental mastery and emotional resilience and toxic behavior and coping mechanism. And Sonia is just one of those people who have been in this field, as you said, for a very long time. And I'm just very curious, what you have to share with us. So let's begin.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's start with just overall mental and emotional well-being, and what are you seeing right now is happening, at least in Hong Kong, when you work with people?
Hong Kong at this moment is very interesting. During the pandemic, people were actually facing themselves a lot more and getting interested in mental health. Because for a long time, Hong Kong market was not so open to mental health, and we were driven by making money, the rules of the family, what we need to do to be good enough. And then something happened during the pandemic, and Hong Kong was cut off from the rest of the world a good 2.5 years. And a lot of coping mechanisms were cut off. Instead of going to the bar for a drink, you can't do that because it shuts at 6 p.m. Instead of going and meeting a big group of friends, you can't do that because it's 2 people per table. And instead of flying away and going to another country, you can't do that because there's quarantine. So then you're at home and then you can face yourselves. So with so many coping mechanisms cut off, Hong Kongers were actually facing themselves during the pandemic. And I actually found that to be great for them, great for my business, of course. And they were looking at what is working and what is not working in their lives, which was very nice to see. A lot of people were using annual leave to do workshops with me, to do private sessions with other people in my center, and to understand, why do I feel this way? So if I'm feeling trapped because of the pandemic and other people are not, let me understand, what is it about me? If I'm anxious, let me understand why. What is causing that anxiety? And now, this year, 2023, February, things opened up and Hong Kongers are out. The playground is open. So things are a little bit different. But I do think that the concept of mental health has been introduced to Hong Kong and to the world. Like, a lot of places didn't even know what mental health was, or that it's important to care for mental health. And mental mastery is something, just like with physical health, it takes maintenance. It's not just, oh, I went to the gym once. They're now beginning to understand that it is important to focus on the mind. What exercises can we do for the mind? What can we do to maintain and sustain that endurance? So there's still a long way to go. I feel like we have birthed the concept of mental health. And now slowly there's scope for it to become an infant, scope for it to become a teenager. We've not even started there yet.
I understand. And I think it's very similar in many other parts of the world. And especially given that both of us are in Asia, I'm in Singapore, you're in Hong Kong. And as you mentioned, you grew up there and you would work with people primarily from Hong Kong at the moment. So there's also a particular mentality in this part of the world. And there were historically a lot of taboos or cliches about mental health, that you don't speak about it and it's not important to address. And so I'm just curious now, when you talk about mental mastery, let's define again. So what is mental mastery?
Yeah, this word mastery, sometimes it throws people off because mastery means like you're like the doctorate in something, you're doing something very well. For me, it's about being your own master. So mental mastery is being in charge of your life. And mostly people don't function in a way where they are in charge. So who's in charge of their life? It's the influence of the environment. It's the conditioning. It's what we grew up with. We call it the SER, social, economy, education, religion, right? All of this is the environment. And the conduit to that is the family. So our family exposes us to all of these things, and there are rules. There are rules about what's a good job, what's not a good job, how to behave, how not to behave, what to do, what not to do, what habits are okay, what habits are not okay. And when we're doing that, we're not masters of our lives because we're so influenced by other things and other people. So, mental mastery is about understanding your own voice, understanding the voice of others, understanding the value in everything. So, it's not about judging this voice is better, this voice is not. It's about having the power of discernment, selectiveness. Which one will help me? Which one can I listen to? And I operate from wisdom more than get hijacked by my coping mechanisms, my emotions, and my influences. And so I would say it is really about being your own master, if that makes sense.
To me, it does. I hopefully for our audience too. If you have any questions when you listen or watch that, then please ask in the comments, and either Sonia or myself will be in touch with you and clarify that. Okay, so this is mental mastery, and you also mentioned the coping mechanism. So let's dive a bit more into this, just once again saying what are coping mechanisms, why and how we form them, and perhaps for people, especially in this part of the world, who would like to start asking questions and unlearning certain things, what would be the right first questions to ask?
Yeah, so coping mechanisms are really what we do to manage our pain. So they show up as behaviors. So an addiction is a coping mechanism. Right? Drinking is a coping mechanism. Laughing a lot is a coping mechanism. Right? There's people who don't know what to do and how to respond in painful situations, so they start laughing. Pleasing is a coping mechanism. Being unable to say no, being busy all the time, exercising too much. All of these are examples of coping mechanisms. And it's what we do to manage ourselves. And when people come to a therapist like myself or a coach, they come to change their coping mechanisms because essentially they want to change their behavior. They're saying that I feel shaky when I speak in public. I don't want to shake. I want to change what my body is doing. Or I binge eat every night. I don't want to eat. I drink. I don't want to drink. I bite my nails. I don't want to do that. And what they're actually doing is wanting to take away a coping mechanism. And that's what makes it so hard because the coping mechanism is a solution that their mind has come up with to cover something deeper inside. And so people don't realize that when they come to change behavior, they're taking away a solution and they're going to then lift that lid off. And then what you're going to get underneath is pain. And are you ready to face that pain? And so they're both protective and they're harmful at the same time. A coping mechanism. You know, the word cope, sometimes people think it's very positive, like I coped with it, I dealt with it. And in the moment, yes, it's helpful because you didn't break down. But later on, it's harmful because it keeps the pain inside. If I give you an example of like binge eating. So someone binge eats and every midnight goes to the cupboard, picks up cheese and crackers and has to have it every night. And then New Year's resolution, I'm not going to binge eat anymore. That's it, done. And this is why New Year's resolutions fail, right, in the first few weeks, because you take away that behavior. So now it's midnight, and this person is feeling very lonely. This person is feeling sad. This person actually felt abandoned by the parent and by the boyfriends and whatever. And now the cheese and crackers are not there. What are you going to do? So either you would face your stuff and have the courage to deal with the real issue, or you'll go back to the same cheese and crackers eventually, or you'll discover a new coping mechanism to keep that pain at bay. So if we understand our behaviors as coping mechanisms and as solutions for something more, then when you want to change your behavior, it's not just addressing the behavior itself. It's going a little bit deeper and it's addressing the why. Instead of judging our behaviors as right, wrong, good, or bad, if we understand why we do it, if we peel a layer back, then we are much more likely to shift behaviors that we perceive to be undesirable.
I'm going to ask a tricky question now. If that's okay, which I always love to ask when I talk to people in the human development field. And I find I myself also reflect often on that.
Mm.
Do you think it is possible for a human being to completely heal all the pain and to never suffer again, like mentally or emotionally?
If we look at the life of Buddha, okay, we know that it's possible. If we look at Jesus Christ, we know that it's possible, but it's not common and it takes a lot. So I would say it's possible. And I would say it takes a lot of dedication, intention, willpower, action, consistent action. And a lot of people will not do it in this lifetime. And that's okay. We've got different opportunities to do that. So, possibility, yes. And what it takes a lot.
I love how you are very gracefully answered that coaching and like a mental health therapy is one of the paths to enlightenment. That was great. But fundamentally, yes, fundamentally, I understand. So basically, what you're saying that it is important to keep evolving. And then I just would like then to look here at the part, how do we understand or how do we deal with the fact when enough is enough? Right? So because then the other one for human beings that is this constant, we live like in a constant self-improvement culture. It's pretty much a bit like also a business culture in a way when it's never good enough. No matter what I do, it's never good enough. It is this therapist, that therapist, 10 years here, 5 years there. I went to hundreds workshops, people would say. And so how to keep this balance between being mindful at what triggers you and addressing the pain that needs to be addressed, but at the same time feeling that you are complete. Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, yeah. I think for many people, whether they're going to seek help or they're doing self help with their own books and reading and meditation, you'll come to a point where you will realize when you're judging and when you're at peace. Because if we're saying, is this good enough? That's still a judgment. Do I need to improve? It's still a judgment. Oh, I'm triggered again. I need to do something about it. It's still a judgment. And in the beginning, that's probably useful because it gives you awareness of triggered versus non triggered. I can differentiate the stages. I feel inferior versus I feel enough. I can differentiate the stages. But once we move to the next level, we would be able to just be at peace. So if I'm angry and I'm at peace with being angry, then I just allow myself to be angry fully. And I don't need to go and seek a therapist or a coach or read a book about it. I will just go through it. The anger will have a beginning, a middle, and an after, and it will be done. And then if I am triggered, I'm at peace with being triggered. So when we get to a point where it's more about loving myself, being at peace with myself, and moving away from wanting to address or fix, then we'll naturally still be growing. We'll be doing it with more self mindfulness without saying that it has to be or I need it to be. It will be automatic. And I think the switch is acceptance over judgment.
Sonia, this is brilliant. It's not like I'm saying before it was not, but this is like really deep. And it also makes total sense with the development. So you know where you are. And I guess that at the beginning, when there is still judgment, then it requires a bit more hand holding from a professional or a book, but probably better professional. And then later, when people move into this peaceful state, then it's what we read also in the ancient text, that you just experience what is happening. Like you experience the emotion, you experience the feeling, you experience your reaction to what is happening, and then you're just witnessing it. And
Exactly. Yes, that is mindfulness, that is meditation, it's all of it. Yeah.
yes, I love that. This is beautiful. When I look at your profile also, I saw that you work with companies, that you work with leaders and you talk and teach about emotional intelligence. So when you go and talk to a leader in a company in Hong Kong, I'm just thinking, right, let's say, but it's a traditional Hong Kongese or Hong Konger, and you go and talk to these people, how do you present the idea of the emotional intelligence and what do you teach them?
It's different now. Like, I'm a hypnotherapist by training. And previously, I was told, don't even write that in your bio. It's scary for corporates, right? And now corporates are seeking me out and saying, can you talk about hypnotherapy? Can you actually talk about what the mind is? So if there's a corporate that actually will seek somebody like me as a speaker, they already know that I come from a different background, that I'm not just going to talk about the soft skills and how to behave. I will be talking about the whys, and I will be talking about how to process emotions. And I have found that they are much more receptive now than they have ever been. So I do talk about how emotions are created and what are emotions for anyway. And basically, emotions are energy in motion, and they're supposed to be experienced, and that's it. And when we don't know how to process them, then we get hijacked by emotions. And when we get hijacked by emotions, we start to suppress, explode, get disease, get in conflict, and all of those other things. And so I teach corporates basically what is the result of that suppression explosion cycle that we're unconsciously in. I show them how the mind works. I show them how we are currently processing emotions versus how we can. And then we do lots of exercises. And this can be like personal exercises. I've taught mindfulness to a lot of corporates, and they're so open to mindfulness. And in fact, they're like incorporating taking mindful moments, like mindful breaks, which is great. They have asked me to teach them, again, how to meditate, what to do in the office, conflict resolution, because when those emotions are heightened, we miss seeing the other person's perspective. So, how to see the other person's perspective. Then it goes into relationship skills. So, yes, those are the kind of things that I'm doing more and more with corporates now.
I have now many questions after you shared so much. So let's start with the mind. You said several times that you tell them about the mind and what is the mind. So could you just explain to us briefly what is that?
Yes. So the first thing to get is the mind is not tangible, right? Like, I can't touch the mind. You can touch the brain. So the brain is like a hardware and the mind is a software. And we know that we can't touch our thoughts. Our thoughts are just there. Yet the software is running our lives. Where is the mind located? More and more studies are now indicating that it's in the gut. So that's why they call it the gut brain, right? And so it's the software that starts in the gut and it extends throughout the body. And our physical body is actually floating inside our mind. And that's why we have the word aura or energy field. And when you're thinking happy thoughts, you take a picture and you run it through an aura software, you can see beautiful bright colors. And then when you think an angry thought, you run it through the software, you can see dark colors because it's reading the mind. And so this software of the mind has two parts to it, the conscious and the subconscious. So our conscious mind is that analytical mind, the rational mind that compares, decides, judges, deciphers. And actually, when you are feeling comfortable, the conscious mind is in charge. And you feel like, I'm doing what I want. I'm experiencing what I want. Like, I want to nod my head. I do it. I want to speak confidently. I do it. And the mind signals to the brain sends the energy to the body. You do what you want. But whenever you are not experiencing what you want, the conscious mind loses its grip of control. And the conscious mind is not in charge. Like, you don't want to get a panic attack, but your body is. You don't want to cry, yet you cry. So that's not a signal that you're saying, I want to have anxiety. That's not a signal that you're consciously giving the body, but the body is doing it anyway. And that is coming from the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind holds all of our life experiences across time and space, and it holds all of our belief systems that we may or may not agree with consciously. So many times we have a belief system inside that I don't agree with. So the intelligence of us might say, oh, I'm lovable, but inside you don't feel that you deserve love. Or your intelligence might say, yeah, of course, I'm skilled, I'm capable, but the inside thinks other people are better than me. And so when you have something like a panic attack or you're scared of authority and your intelligence says, why am I scared of authority? Who is my boss to me anyway? If I lose this job, I'll get another job. Yet the body is shaking. It's because the subconscious mind has collected experiences and collected belief systems. And so when we're working with someone's mind, we're actually working to align. we're aligning the conscious and the subconscious mind to say the same message. And anytime your life is not working for you, it's when they're saying the opposite messages. The conscious mind is saying, I want to be calm. The subconscious mind is saying, you're in danger, you're in danger. And so that alignment is what we work on. I hope that's given you a little bit of an idea of the mind. Yeah.
Yes, it's actually very beautifully explained. And it's also very clear and very simple. I love how you can take sometimes what people could perceive rather complex methods and topics and just explain it very clearly and very simply. And as you said, that when you're aligning the conscious and subconscious mind, like I know in a sacred text, for example, that people also often say that what you think, what you say, and what you do must be in alignment, right? So then it becomes, so there's no conflict, and it's exactly what you described. Emotions. You were talking about emotional regulation and what are emotions? We said that emotions are energy in motions and they need to be experienced and felt and moved. And there are like supportive and maybe not so supportive way to process emotions. So can you please share with us a bit more on that? So what people would do that may be not very helpful and need to be aware. And then what are the better way to process our emotions?
Yes, absolutely. I think this is such an important topic because people are not taught what to do with emotions. Like we feel these things and then what? And let's understand the primary emotions that we have. And if we just boil down to it, whether you are a human being or an animal or an older human being or a newborn baby, you're going to feel happy, sad, angry, and scared. And that's just primary emotions. And because we don't know what to do with them, we get all the other stuff. If we accepted that we're going to feel happy, sad, angry, scared, and all of this is to do with our survival, and all of this is just to do with human experience, and one is not better than the other, one is not wrong, and the other one is not right, then we are going to experience emotions as a wave. And a lot of people still subscribe to the thought that, oh, I should be happy all the time. I should be happy all the time. How? How can you have a wave that goes up and then just stays up? Every wave that goes up in the sea will come down again. So happiness is an emotion, and every emotion is transient. That's why they call it energy in motion. It moves, and we can't keep that stuck. And so when we are judging, once again, when we're judging an emotion as I shouldn't feel it, it's wrong, it's bad, we even judge happiness. Some people think I don't deserve to be happy, or I'm scared. If I get too happy, then something bad will happen. So I'm not allowing myself to get too happy. And then angry. I can't get angry because it's not polite. Sad. Oh, I shouldn't cry because when I was young, I was told I couldn't cry. And scared. Oh, that makes me weak. So when we have all of these judgments with our primary emotions, we don't allow ourselves to experience it. And so we start the emotion because it's natural. Then through judgment, it just gets locked in the body. And the judgment is judging something about it. I'm either judging the emotion or myself that I shouldn't feel it, or the world or life that this shouldn't have given me this experience. And because of that judgment, those emotions get locked and that energy stays in the physical body. And over time, it becomes disease. So in my school of thought, I actually believe that any long-term debilitating disease is a result of lock emotions, like
I
emotions.
do support that belief too, personally.
Yeah. And you know what? Like I would even go further and say even accidents are mental related, because you might think, oh, I fell down. That's why my elbow hurts. But actually, if you were fully present, would you fall? Maybe not. If you were fully present in your body, would you not be able to look on the floor and say, there's something there. Maybe I wouldn't walk there. Then maybe you wouldn't slip. So there's an argument that even accidents are mentally related. It's not something that just happens that you can blame on the outside.
And emotional regulation, since we explained now, right? So what the emotions are and how we react. So let's say when people do feel, okay, happy, you said happy, sad, angry, or scared. I think with happiness, no one has a problem unless people feel they don't deserve it. Then
Yes.
that's the story of itself. But
Yes.
emotions like unhappiness, anger, and fear, usually people try to get rid of it as quickly as possible and they don't know what to do. So what can they do?
Yes, thank you for bringing that question back. So basically, be present to it. And a good way to be present to it is acknowledge the feeling. So I am angry. Okay? Not that I shouldn't be, I should be, good or bad. I am angry. And studies have shown that if you are not judging, then the emotion can stay with you for about 3 minutes. And in those 3 minutes, you can process it by being present to anger. And if you're present to anger, you can check even, where is my body storing this? Where am I physically experiencing the anger? And actually, lots of times, anger itself is in the arms. Because when you are angry at someone, what do you want to do? You want to punch them in the face, right? You want to slap them. So suppressed anger very often is here. So get in touch with that emotion, get in touch with where that emotion is in your body, name that emotion, and then use deep breaths. And I would say start with 7 deep breaths. Like, I breathe in the anger and I allow myself to feel it fully. I pause. I breathe out the anger and I allow it to flow through my body. I breathe in the anger again and I allow myself to feel it. Pause and I breathe it out. And in those 7 breaths, something miraculous happens. Like, you're not denying it, you are not avoiding it or judging it, no coping mechanism. You're diving into it. Like, okay, anger, here I come. And then you experience it fully. And that is probably the most beautiful way to regulate. And we can do that for anger, sadness, fear. And if we do it for these primary emotions, we'll experience less of the secondary, which is like guilt, humiliation, embarrassment, frustration, all of that stuff that comes when we're judging the primary emotions.
This is such a beautiful, fascinating cloning in a very simple way. So thank you, Sonia. And the final question for today, I actually would like to ask a little bit more about you and your own routine, your own schedule. How do you deal with the emotions? Do you have a rituals you do? Do you have your own practice? Like, what is Sonia's then arsenal at home, right, to process her emotions?
Yes. So my routine is very simple. As you've seen, I like to keep things simple and easy to do. So before sleeping at night, I think it's the most important part of our day where we can do our daily routine. And since studying the mind, I also know that when you sleep, the last thought that you have just before you sleep is the one that the mind will store in deepest. So it's very important to sleep on a great note, a peaceful note. So what I do is I start with a daily review. And I review my entire day from the moment I woke up to the moment I'm sleeping. And it's like closing the files. So that's my closing. It's like your phone. I'm closing all the files that were open today. And if I'm seeing that there's an emotion there that's not processed, I do breath work, like what I just shared, to process those emotions. So if what happened, I had a fight with someone or I was upset with someone, I'm still feeling angry or I'm still feeling sad, I breathe through the sadness until my own emotional charges are complete. When those charges are complete, I then go into gratitude, mindfulness. I practice saying a few things that I'm loving about myself or that I'm grateful for. I do some breath work. Then I say an affirmation. And then I sleep on the note of the affirmation. So the last thing that my subconscious mind is hearing would be whatever I say, whether it's I'm calm, I'm peaceful every day and in every way. I feel more and more loving. I accept myself today more than I did yesterday. I'm allowing myself to be. I connect to oneness. I connect to I am consciousness. These are examples. So that's the note that I sleep in. And my sleep is beautiful because I actually close my day and I'm known to be probably one of the deepest sleepers ever. Hard to wake me up. So then waking up in the morning, again, I make it very simple. I do something called priming, and I've actually recorded a meditation on priming. So you can listen to that on my Spotify. It's very much just about connecting to earth energy. So grounding myself, connecting to earth, and then connecting from my crown to my intuition, higher self, whatever name you have for it, bringing both energies into my heart, mixing it into my heart center, and spreading love and joy, and then setting an intention for the day. And then after I set my intention for the day, I listen to something empowering for 20 minutes. That's it. That's day to day.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Sonia. And for everyone who is listening and watching, of course, we will include all the links. So please do check out your work. And maybe if you can send me the direct link to the priming meditation, we're also going to include it in the description. And thank you for tuning in to Timeless Teachings. Remember to subscribe, to follow, to share, and we'll see you next time with another guest.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure, Yana. So nice to be here.
Feel free to share this episode with friends, subscribe to the podcast and YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And remember, you are the master of your own life.